So you know that awkward moment when you've been speaking for 50-something minutes and for nothing, nothing had happened. It didn't record. That's always fun. So, yeah, I'm going to talk about some statistics, educational statistics on Kentucky. I wrote this paper. There's going to be a link on the bottom. I'm just going to point out Kentucky's the educational statistics. But basically, I took a snapshot of Kentucky. I just took all the statistics that I could find in every category, and I just said, okay, here's where Kentucky is. Right? And it's not bad stuff. It's really wherever we was the top 10 at, okay? So whatever Kentucky was top 10, that's what I included. Most of them were bad, but, we were like 40,000 is our median income. So, we're not all bad. So there's actually some really good things. And I think what is good with Kentucky can fix what is bad with Kentucky. So I want you to just check out these educational rankings and read them, and then you should check out the first 9 pages and the last 9 pages, because I'm not going to read those, but those are going to be your general statistics and then sort of the solutions that I think that we should come up with. So there's health problems and some other problems, cancer, the toxic pollution, animal abuse, child abuse. So there's a lot of things that's going on in Kentucky, but there's and nobody's talking about any of this, right? Mitch McConnell, Allison Lundergan Grimes, they're just talking about the fewest things, right? Mitch McConnell saying she's declaring war on Kentucky. She don't give a damn. Yeah, right. Okie dokie. So that's some bullshit. I don't believe any of that. So let's just make sure. I gotta check back and forth because I'm not for sure why it had crashed on me. But all right, so we need to talk about these issues. We have a ton of problems that's going on here, and that's the only way we're going to fix our problems is actually giving we need, more than anything, Kentucky needs the truth, okay? So here's the truth, here's our statistics, and let's see if we can do something better, okay? So let's see here. Let's get to the spot where we're talking about education. So education is a lot of things, to me at least. I think education should be useful, right? Spalding University, they don't believe that. Teacher training schools, all they're doing is normalizing totalitarian fascism. All they care about is blind obedience to arbitrary and absolute authority. So education is consolidating and institutionalizing our philosophy on life. So Jean-Jacques Rousseau says that we need to protect our babies, let them be who they are, and then we got to somehow put that wild, savage child into civil life, okay? So we need to care about education to have a good life. Education is not just some vacuous term to avoid all meaning as the politicians use it, which George Carlin pointed out, but it's actually real. Its importance as a matter of life and death. Nearly everybody agrees with education as a concept because one would rather be informed than not informed, right, in general. Kentucky's dismal life statistics listed above suggest that the education statistics will be dismal too. So start with Jefferson County. 18 of the 41 failing schools in Kentucky are located in Louisville, Kentucky. So there's, out of all the schools in Kentucky, they said 41 of them are failing. 41 of our schools are failing schools. But 18 of them are located, about half of them are right here in Louisville. And that's the largest metropolis, right, our chocolate city. Since 18 schools in Jefferson County public school system were failing schools with low test scores and graduation rates, this caused the State Board of Education to threaten to take over the schools if the 18 failing schools didn't increase. Then the data from the 2011-2012 school year, only 2 of the 18 JCPS test scores improved, which led to Terry Holliday, the Education Commissioner of Kentucky, to say that Louisville Public Schools was committing an academic genocide on the student population. So let's think about that, academic genocide. That makes it sound like they're taking these kids and drowning them in the basements. And really, that is what they're doing, okay? They're not drowning them, but by them flunking out, them not getting their degrees, not moving on to anybody else or any other schools, no vocation, no welding, no computer repair. They just flunk out, and then where do they go from there? You know, you wonder why you got all the crime and all the crazy behavior and all the that's why you have it. The reason why you have all the problems that Kentucky has because we got a crappy education system. So let's carry on. Academic genocide. Terry Holliday said, explaining why he thought the term academic genocide applied to Louisville. Only 40% of the kids are even graduating from high school, and less than 20% are ready for college or careers. So only 40% are graduating. I took a look at that, and actually what he meant was some of the schools, right? Iroquois High School, for instance, according to Governor Steve Beshear, because I asked his office, and he says that was the only school in Louisville touting a 40% graduation rate. And that's 40%. You know, that means only 40 out of 100 kids that enter as freshmen graduate. So 60% are dropping out. You think you're going to kick 60% out of your schools, and that's not going to come back and bite you? Education costs about $8,000 to $9,000 per year. So we are saving $30,000 because they're going to go to jail, right? So that's $40,000 per year that we got to spend to take care of them in jail. But the education system is $8,000 to $9,000. So you're saving money and you're educating them, and we should be all educated. I think that's the point of a universal education, is that we all get the skills that we need to not only barely function in society, but so that we can succeed and do great things. Okay, so Iroquois High School is touting 40%. That means out of 100 students who enter Iroquois High School as freshmen, only 40% of those students or only 40, right? Out of 100 students, only 40 are going to graduate in 4 years. And then out of those 40, only 6 of them are career or college ready. So that means the few that do get through, they're not even ready to go to college or do a career, right? So what do we educate? What do we teach? And what are these schools doing? 11 of the 18 schools were showing some progress, but 5 of the 18 showed zero progress. 2013, February 12th. What I saw was a whole group of children who are being removed from the economy and probably ending up in your prison system, Terry Holiday said. 1 out of 3 Kentucky 4th and 8th graders read at or above grade level, and 1 out of 4 Louisville teens dropped out of high school. The 1 out of 4 teens, I mean, this is incredible. 1 out of 3 read at or above grade level. So what are the other 2/3? That's 66% that aren't reading the way they should be, and then 25% are dropping out. The 6 low achieving JCPS, and that's across the board, right? So you got 60% that's not graduating Iroquois, but across the board is 25%. 6 low achieving JCPS schools in 2010 were Southern, Fairdale, Wagner, Iroquois, Seneca, and Doss. There's supposed to be 6 there, but product Kentucky education. No, I'm kidding. Southern, Fairdale, Wagner, Iroquois, Seneca, and Doss. So that is 6. And that's those are the 6 low achieving. Are they doing better? Is anybody paying attention to any of this? The end of course exams showed that Algebra 2 numbers dropped from 46 to 36%, which was also a cause for alarm for Terry Holiday. Terry Holiday advocates new models of teaching and learning, as well as personalized learning, performance-based assessment, and authentic student voice. For suggestions on how to stop the academic genocide, that's what he says we need to do. Personalized learning, right? IEPs, actually get the kids, listen to the kids, have an authentic student voice where they can actually, say, here's what we need. And performance-based assessment. So not just tests, but actual performance, actual experiences. But the Kentucky Department of Education doesn't have all the answers, so he kind of sort of washes his hands with all that. It's a little hot here. This isn't how I try to do my hair, but, oh man. Alright, it's acceptable, right? Acceptable-ish. So, page 12. While most educational statistics with comparable studies of the other 49 states in America for Kentucky's public schools were mostly negative, such as the high percentage of college students who still need remedial courses. So 3 out of 4 KCTCS entering students needed at least one remedial course. 3 out of 4. So 75% of those who are actually pursuing more, college or going on past high school, they're actually still, they didn't learn the basic math or the basic reading or science or whatever it is that they actually need. So they have to take a remedial course when they're in college. That's a waste of time, waste of money, waste of resources. That's 2010. A recent report by Frankfurt has been showing some hopeful numbers. 2012-2013, Kentucky students have an 86% graduation rate, which is nearly the highest in the nation. So good, across Kentucky we're actually graduating. The Kentucky itself is not like Iroquois. College and career readiness scores improved by 7 points, though they still show only 54% of students prepared for success after high school. So that's not good, right? Only 54% are prepared for success. It should be 100%. Everybody should be educated. Everybody should like their educations. We should do vouchers, right? Of course, the Sudbury Model Schools is half the cost, and it's an actual democratic education where they respect your autonomy instead of the fascist totalitarian institutions right now that only teach blind obedience to arbitrary and absolute authority. So, compared to other states, Kentucky ranks 13th best in 8th grade reading and 11th best in 4th grade reading, according to the National Assessment of Educational Progress. And for math scores, Kentucky ranks 26th best for 4th grade math and 33rd for 8th grade math, which isn't as impressive. So, we're doing okay when it comes to reading, but we're not doing as good when it comes to math. Consider Kentucky's latest proficiency rates from the National Assessment of Educational Progress. The NAEP proficiency rates are grim. In general, only around 1 in 3 students in Kentucky is proficient in 4th and 8th grade subjects. So 1 in 3, that's not good. That's not good, Kentucky. 1 in 3, we need to have 100%. Okay, so 2 out of 3 are not proficient when it comes to the 4th and 8th grade subjects: math, social studies, reading, science. The prestigious and distinguished educational magazine Education Week issues an annual quality reports card, which it considers to be the most comprehensive ongoing assessment of the state of American education. Education Week press release 2013, January 10. According to the 2013 Quality Counts report card, the 17th report card since it's been issued in 1997. So we have data from 1997 for the last 17 years till today. With this national rankings. Overall, Kentucky received a C+ average. Doesn't sound good, 77%, but the national average was C+. No states received an A, and only one state received a B+, which was Maryland. Kentucky received a grade of B-. So America got the C+, and then we got a B-. So Kentucky's doing better than America. And we got an overall ranking of 10th place. So Kentucky is 10th smartest in the nation. Our students are 10th smartest in the nation. Okay? Then Steve Beshear comes out and he says, wow, I'm tired of everybody saying we're a bunch of dumb, backwards hicks that have a culture of ignorance, and we're a bunch of racist, backwards, toothless, sort of barefoot, can't read, type of dumbasses. And that exists, okay? So Steve Beshear, these numbers give us reason to hope. But we got a $40,000 median income rate, so we have, middle class. There's people that's doing well here, but we have a really sick, poor, backwards class that's going on too. And some of these counties and some of these areas are just completely being forgotten and left behind. No child left behind. Everybody's being left behind here. Clay County, 80% is Republican, 80% is poor. And there's also, everybody wants to pretend like they're, oh, I don't take no welfare. Kentucky is a donor or is a receiver state, so actually for every dollar they send to the federal government, $1.50 comes back. So yeah, you're taking welfare, Kentucky, and you don't sit there and say you're racist and black people don't work. It's you white people that's not working. It's you white people that's on welfare, and on food stamps, on Social Security, that's on the dole, and all these problems that we have. Pollution, cancer rates, health problems. It's because of our crappy education system. So let's carry on. Prestigious and distinguished educational magazine Education Week has this national report card, right? So we're 10th in the nation. So that means we got some smart kids. We've been dumb for a long time, but now these kids are saying, we're the 10th smartest in the nation. The 10th smartest, right? The 10th. Better than, I don't know. I don't want to list any of them because there's 9 that's better than us, but out of 40 of them, right? So, okay. We're ranking at 10th place. It's the first time Kentucky's been in the top 10. South Dakota was graded the lowest grade in the nation. Education Week press release 2013. The weakest area Kentucky struggled with was spending. Kentucky received an F on spending, but Kentucky's overall funding grade increased to a C- because of the alleged equitable seek funding between rich and poor Kentucky students. Since 1990, Carroll Revolutionary Educational Overhaul. So we got an F on spending, but overall funding was better because we're equitable. Supposedly the rich and poor kids are getting the same funding, but overall we're not funding education. We're 10th in the nation, but they didn't do it with any money. Our kids are being, in spite of us, they're being educated in spite of the adults who don't have their shit together. According to the National Education Association, NEA, Kentucky ranked the 10th highest state for students for free and reduced price meals. So that we're also the 10th poorest, right, when it comes to the people needing the free meals. So lots of poverty. There's like 25% of the kids are in poverty, and we're the smartest. So we're poor and we're doing good. So these are like weird countercurrents, right? For 2000 to 2009, Kentucky is ranked 48th in the nation for per capita spending. on P through 12 education. Kentucky Department of Education 2013, January 9th. Democratic Governor Steve Beshear said, think of how much progress we could be making if we were adequately funding our schools. Think where we would be if we truly invested in our future. Education Week's 2013 Quality Counts report card signals a dramatic realignment in Kentucky's populace. The remarkable trajectory of the improving test scores at Kentucky is very hopeful. In 2011, Kentucky was 34th place by this Quality Counts report. 2012, Kentucky is 14th. And in 2013, we were 10th. So we've been basically, what, 49th for a long time. But 3 years ago, we're 34th, right? And then we go from 34th to 14th. So that's a 20-point jump. And then from 2012 to 2013, we went from 14th to 10th. So we're the 10th smartest in the state. Wow, you know, that's incredible. Kentuckians are known to be smart. That's maybe, I don't know if anybody else believes in this except for Steve Beshear. But that's hopeful, okay? So these are 3 different years, and it's showing that, you know, there is improvement here, which is great, okay? That's good. I'm gonna give credit where credit is due. Our dismal overall statistics, though, suggest that our state isn't doing that well, you know, with pollution rates, cancer rates. When it comes to, you know, society plus the 40% illiteracy rate, I'll go into detail more below, but it suggests that Kentucky's adults virtually have no idea what the fuck they're doing. So 40% is illiterate, and then we have all these horrible problems with the pollution and with the cancers and with the animal abuse and child abuse and prison rates and police brutality. So DUIs, binge drinking. So what's up? What's up with that, Kentucky? So the adults don't know what they're doing. They've been running the state pretty poorly, like we're one of the worst run states. But our children are showing so much promise in spite of the low lack of funding. So, okay, so Kentucky's youth are soaking up as much knowledge as they're able to in spite of the hierarchical oppression. Kentucky's youth is a baby tree, not being watered and loved, no fertilizer at all, and it's sprouting up like a weed. So they're learning in spite of us. In fact, Kentucky's been laying the groundwork in America with CARA in 1990. So we've been laying the groundwork for educational reform since 1990, and that was absolutely revolutionary. I was a product of that. So Kentucky led America with the standards-based movement in America with CARA in 1990. CARA in 1990 was largely about assessments and standards, but a host of other reforms were experimented with, such as bringing technology into the classrooms, initiating site-based decision-making councils for more parental involvement, and balancing Kentucky's finances to make funding equal to all children. Regardless of class or wealth. In the fall of 2010, Kentucky again led America by implementing the rigorous Common Core standards first. So we're getting on board with how the rest of America is, right? So you can't say that a Kentucky education is less than a California education or a New York education because we adopted Common Core. So we adopted Common Core, very first one to do it. Now, the thing is executive orders. If he can do executive orders, then why can't he do executive orders when it comes to legalizing marijuana or when it comes to legalizing gay marriage? These are the last progressive, you know, this is, where else is America going to go? We always progress, right? So that's like the last things we really need. Once we get those things, then we're at the promised land. We don't need to. We just need to get our shit together then. So in the fall of 2010, Kentucky again led America by implementing, right, the Common Core standards first. Steve Beshear's legacy as Kentucky's top executive will definitely include the successful implementation of both Common Core and Obamacare. Kentucky, on a side note, was the first state to adopt the State Civil Rights Act in 1966 after Martin Luther King led a march on Frankfort to secure its passage. While Kentucky is known to be 20 years behind the times, many times there's an ambitious, nationally based, you know, there's always like countercurrents, right? So an ambitious, nationally based overhaul, such as the Civil Rights Act of 1966. Common Core SB 1 2010 and Obamacare in 2013, and voting to stick with Lincoln in the United States of America during the Civil War. We latch onto these great presidents with these great programs. A great society sends our state sailing forward, even when the national dialogue is out of sync with the working families on the ground. Sometimes being poor, sick, and dumb pays dividends. I hope this trend of Kentucky's education continues, so sons and daughters can start educating their fathers, mothers, grandparents, grandmothers, and then we can educate the new generations, and each generation can get better. That's the point of having the next generation, so our next generation gets better. Some people want to try to smash the next generation, tell them to shut up, get in line, and do as you're told. No, that's not the best way to educate. I mean, maybe when they're 3, okay, but eventually when they turn 4, they need to learn to be smart, independent, creative, innovative, thinking adults, or not adults, but thinking people, so that way they can practice thinking for themselves. By the time they are adults, they'll be able to do well and make their own decisions and make good decisions. I hate child abuse, and sometimes I'm like, oh, let them ruin their own kids. But if you're beating your kids and that kid comes in and starts bullying my kid, or that kid comes in and shoots up the school, I got a problem with that, okay? You don't own your kids. It's a catch and release program. A dog you pet and then it dies, right? Then you bury it. That's not what you're doing with your kids. You ain't going to keep your kid right where he's at. The idea is they turn 18, they go fly out of the nest, and they can do well. Well, can they fly out of the nest? Do they have their own business? Have you started helping them to make their own money and do their own thing? Or did you just, make them a slave your entire life? If you're making them slaves your entire life, you ain't a good parent. You suck as a human being. Okay. So let's get back on track. I hope this Trinity, Kentucky education continues. Okay, so they're really smart people. We could teach these older people to get a smartphone. That'll revolutionize your life. Get a Facebook profile. Teach them to read. Okay, the illiteracy rate means they're not getting on the internet. If they can't read, they're not. By kindergarten, you read. Learn to read, and in first grade you read to learn. So if you didn't learn to read, you don't know how to read to learn. You don't know how to educate yourself. And self-education is one of the most powerful forms of education out there. Abraham Lincoln was using that hemp oil so he could educate himself. The hemp oil in the lamp, right? He was just by candlelight or by lamp oil. So a couple more pages. Okay, so Kentucky's youth looks to be the most evolved, technologically astute, smartest generation of Kentuckians and Americans who's ever walked the planet, according to this Quality Reports Education Week national study. According to a Kentucky educational expert, the 3 ominous clouds hanging over Kentucky's youth continuing genius are 3 things: the sequester resulting from the budget cuts, the federal budget cuts, state budget cuts, and then fear at the local level. So they're cutting education, local, state, and federal. So they're not paying any money. They're one of the worst financed students in the country, and they're going to get less money. So not only are they the best, they're doing really well and learning in spite of it. And while I'm optimistic about Kentucky's youth continuing genius, the federal and state budget cuts, along with the fear on the local level, leads Stu Silberman to believe a more pessimistic, though perhaps more honest, painting of an analog which fits Kentucky's predicament. We're more like an airplane that has been flying straight up, and now it's run out of fuel. So our kids keep on getting smarter and smarter and smarter, but where are the adults at? They're just going to let them fall, and they're going to let them, they're going to move out of state, and there's going to be a huge brain drain. There's a culture of ignorance here in Kentucky. The smart people, internet people, oh, I don't know about that internet. I'm a dumb fuck. Yuckity duckity duckity fuckity. That's fuck the culture of ignorance shit. It's good to be smart. It's cool to be a nerd, to know how to do things. These are good things, okay? So the fact that you want to think that you know it all, know the secret to wisdom, according to Socrates, the cornerstone of all Western civilization is to admit that you don't know something. If you don't know how to build a house, don't pretend that you do and start building a rickety little piece of crap shack that's just going to, the big bad wolf is just going to huff and puff and just blow it down. So, according to Kentucky educational expert, these ominous clouds are showing that, we're like an airplane that's been flying straight up and now it's run out of fuel. So another thing that kind of pokes a little bit of holes into our balloon that rains on our parade, Michelle Reed's Student First Survey is another nationally ranking survey that's shown that we're not doing as good as what the Education Week says that we are. So the Michelle Reed Student First Survey is a bipartisan grassroots movement of more than 2 million members nationwide based in Sacramento, California. This national report gave Kentucky a D- grade, and it ranks Kentucky 35th nationally, which is a different story than the 10th place D- of Education Week's Quality Count Survey. Education Week puts Kentucky on the honor roll, and Kentucky received the Most Improved Award, but Michelle Reed nearly flunks Kentucky completely with a 0.88 GPA. Michelle Reed's 2013 Students First National Survey gave Kentucky a D+ grade in the category Elevate Teaching compared to Education Week's Quality Counts, which gave Kentucky a B- under the similar category called Teaching Profession. Quality Count Survey also ranked Kentucky the 5th in America for teaching profession. So one is saying that the teaching here sucks, and the other one here says the teaching is great. Well, which one is it? You know, there's a contradiction in the numbers. Michelle Reeves' 2013 Students First survey handed down an F to Kentucky. Absolutely no points were awarded to Kentucky, and may God have mercy on our soul, under the category Empower Parents. And that's important. Parents are part of the educational process. You got the staff, you got the parents, and you got the students. But the traditional Prussian industrial model is to steal your own children and to make them into worker bees so that they'll follow Frankfurt and not your orders. So they want to steal your babies away and make them dumb workers in the factories and to make them cannon fodder for the war machine. That's the historical purpose for public education. And that's I see the totalitarian fascism today, right? We got a 95% incumbency rate. We got all these horrible issues that continues to persist in Kentucky. Why? Because we got shitty education, and our education system needs to get better. It needs to get better. So Kentucky has heavy parental involvement in the school systems with the site-based decision-making councils. So giving Kentucky 0 points in that category doesn't really seem right, but that doesn't mean that the SBDMs are working. The SBDMs could be totally, you know, overlooked, and people don't give a crap about anything that they're saying. So they have democratic potential, but that doesn't exactly mean they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Especially for all statement is easy. All you need is one counterexample. So we don't know if they're being effective. Whenever Frankfurt takes over a failing school, the first thing they do is dismantle the SBDMs. So maybe they're afraid of the democratic potential during the takeover, and they want to be totalitarian as possible. The fact that they're there, that does give it democratic potential, but doesn't mean they're actually involved. So that we need, according to her rankings, Kentucky Students First, we need to involve the parents. Michelle Reed gave Kentucky a D in the category Spend Wisely and Govern Well. A D. A D. Again, we're not financing. We knew this from the other report that they're not getting the money. Even though there's equitable spending and we got a C- because of the equity, overall funding we got an F. Even with this is something that both of the reports agree on. Okay, so we're 10th in the nation somehow, but we had an F when it comes to spending and financing. So quality reports gave Kentucky an F, 53.4% overall government. So the adults get a fucking F. Frankfurt, you get an F. Steve Brashear, you get an F when it comes to financing and overall government spending and funding, but a B plus, 89%, because what little money Frankfurt gave to Kentucky's future was equitable between the rich and the wealthy. That was CARA. That was 1990. So that's been like that since for 20 years. That's nothing that anybody today can brag about. Michelle Reed's 2013 report suggests, and I bet if you actually look at the number, the richer districts are still getting more money and the poorer districts aren't. If you actually looked at the pennies. So Michelle Reed's 2013 report suggests that Kentucky passed laws to allow mayors to take over failing schools. Michelle Reed's 2013 report also suggests changing the teacher pension plan into a portable plan. And there is a big issue with the teacher pension plan. Richard Enns fired a Luke Skywalker shot in the Quality Report Death Star when he pointed out that the major change between the Quality Counts 2012 report and the 2013 report for Kentucky was the increase in points under the category Transitions and Alignment. So for 3 categories, K through 12 achievement, standards, assessments, accountability, and teaching profession, there was no change in points. They didn't even analyze it. They didn't even look at those things. So we went from 14 to 10 just because the transitions and alignment was changed. And I'm not even sure what that category measured, but that's how we had gained in our status. So Kentucky's score for chance for success actually went down slightly between 2012 and 2013. So we actually dropped in one of the categories. The other ones we didn't even, there was no change in, and then we were better with transitions and alignments. So I'm not for sure exactly why that was. It increased substantially, and then our overall score increased along with it. So we ranked 34th in 2011, so the major jump was from 2011 to 2012, and seeing the difference between those years would tell a clearer, more precise picture of why the dramatic shift in Kentucky's rankings happened. In the 2013 report, we learned little, because we cannot tell if the standards are working or not. Enns retorts, just because you have educational standards or assessments, that's not good enough. Kentuckians learned that through the failures of both CURIS and CATS assessments. So we did have CURIS. We had CATS. I remember CURIS. I went through CURIS. We had CATS assessments, and now we don't have either one of them, just end-of-course testing, right? So I guess if we don't name the test, then we can't really criticize it. End of course. How can you criticize end of course? That's just at the end of the course you test them. And so in the comment section underneath Richard Day's blog about the Quality Count survey, Richard Dins pointed out that not only was it remarkable Kentucky was ranked 10th place, but that Arkansas and West Virginia were actually ranked higher. West Virginia ranked higher than Kentucky. It was ranked 9th place, right? Yet they were given an F for their state's K through 12 achievement. Well, that's remarkable. I mean, the K through 12 achievement was an F, so their actual education sucks, you know, in terms of achievement, but they're 9th in the nation. Well, what does that mean? The K through 12 achievement is arguably the most important part of the whole quality count evaluation. So if the education isn't actually working, then what else are we studying? So, you know, I mentioned all the other categories in there. You want to take a look at it closer, you can do so yourself. But these are just compare and contrast these two national rankings. Inns had the same problem with Arkansas. He said it was ranked 5th, but their K through 12 achievement, they're given a D. What's up with this? So recent national surveys indicate that Kentucky children are learning better, and these numbers, though, exist as an anomaly, an outlier, an exception to the rule to Kentucky's perennial problems. Recently and historically, since we've been keeping statistics and keeping rankings. So Beshear, when he tried to get Obamacare passed, he's sitting there admitting that our healthcare system's been, ever since the beginning, since we've been keeping stats and rankings, this Kentucky is a shithole of a state. It's a fucking toilet bowl. We got all this damn cancer, all these heart problems, obesity, toothlessness, mental issues, and #1 for insanity, right? And I think actually America is like one big insane country, so we're #1 of the #1. Also smoking, I think we're #1 of #1, and all this other thing. So we're really high with these horrible, horrible rankings. Problems in Kentucky have been perennial. Issues of poverty, healthcare, and education when they first stepped on the soil in 1774, there's still issues with poverty, healthcare today. We're poor, sick, and dumb. Paul Patton's, actually, you know, there's some hope, though, with our children. It seems like we are doing better in terms of educating our kids. Paul Patton's task force on literacy's report identified past statistics in Kentucky. So this is 1999. Okay, in 1990, Kentucky ranked 1st in the nation in the proportion of the population that had less than a 9th grade education. So this is embedded in the report. This is information. So they were saying 19% compared to 10% nationally. So 20%, about 20% of Kentucky population didn't even go into high school. So 1 out of 5 Kentucky adults, as of 1990 statistics, don't even have a high school education. So those people are still around today. Those people are just 24 years older than me. I'm 32. So anybody that's 50, 60, 70 years old, 1 out of 5 of those people didn't even go to high school. They said, high school, fuck that, not even going to go. So, you know, we have a lot of dropouts right now, a lot of adults who did not actually go there. But, you know, 4 out of 5 did, right? So 80% actually did, but 20% did not. In 1990, also, 35% of Kentucky's population aged 25 and older had less than a high school education, compared to 25% of the U.S. So again, nationally, we're way worse than where we should be. Okay, 35%, they didn't have a high school of those who was aged 25 and older. Among neighboring states, only Tennessee, 33%, and West Virginia, 34%, approached this level of low educational attainment. So, you know, again, remarkable that West Virginia actually was 9th. Right? So Kentucky ranked 49th out of 50 in the proportion of the adult population with a high school diploma or higher in these years. So 49th, this is where I'm used to Kentucky being. 49th, 48th, we're battling it out, right, with Mississippi. Kentucky's high school graduation rates were the 2nd worst in America in 1990. It shows the institutional structural persistence of poor education in the bluegrass. So, shitty education in Kentucky for a long time. Right before the turn of the century in 1999, Governor Paul Patton led this task force on Kentucky literacy to gain information about literacy, just if they could read. Now, I remember taking a survey. I think I took the survey at Gadsden County High School as a junior, and I topped out the highest level, 11.9 grade reading level, and along with my other smart friends. And then they allowed us to read anything we wanted to, and I kept reading Goosebumps, right? Goosebumps, I just kept reading. Adult illiteracy is like a disease and affects virtually every dimension of Kentucky life. Adult illiteracy saps the energy and capability of Kentucky's people and its economy. Adult illiteracy feeds the state's unemployment, its welfare rolls, and its correctional institutions. Adult illiteracy severely hinders the life chances of young children, undermines school reform, and limits the opportunities for post-secondary education. The State of the South, 1998, published by MDC Incorporated, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, emphasized the impact of increased numbers of single-parent families decreasing educational participation by males, high dropout rates, low numbers of bachelor's degrees in the aging population. So there's fewer younger workers, and the change in workplace needs. So we're not industrialized anymore. We don't have all these factories anymore. You have a lot of old people in Kentucky. You have nobody graduating college. Lots of people dropping out, especially men. And then you also have single-parent families. So actually in Kentucky you have a lot of grandmothers and grandpas who are taking care of the families. And that has an effect. You know, where are the parents at? When you don't have parents, you know, and that's another thing. You want people point out the black population, where the dads at? Well, where are the parents at? There are no parents, right? Or single parent at least. So maybe that's a white problem too. So the problem with adult education, according to this report, is not with grade schools. And the reason why I mentioned white and black is because there's a lot of racism, Confederate flags here, and they say that they're not on welfare, but they totally are. They're on the food stamps and they're on Social Security and Medicaid. So they're on food, but they're pretending like they're not. They're a receiver state. We get more money from the federal government than what we actually put out there. And so for Rand Paul, for Mitch McConnell to be such obstructionist assholes, they're basically gambling with poor Kentucky's futures and with our lives. We need to eat, but they're sitting there saying, oh, you know, damn the government, blah, blah, blah. Get out of here. Problem with adult education, according to the report, is not with the grade schools, middle or high schools, but it was with the secondary schools, colleges, universities, vocational, and programs for adults. So Paul Patton's 1999 Literacy Task Force discovered that 40% of Kentucky's working-age population, 1 million people, is at the two lowest literacy levels, 1 and 2, not being able to read at all or very limited to moderate levels. 14% of Kentuckians, 340,000, read at a level 1, which is 0 to 6th grade level literacy, and 26% of Kentuckians, 640,000, read at a level 2, which is 6th to 9th grade level. So that's those Kentuckians who are only able to read from 0 to 6th grade level are functioning at the lowest level of literacy with virtually no literacy skills. And the way they define it is minimal skills needed to compete in the workplace as well as to function in the home and their communities. So they barely have enough, you know, information, if they even have. Basically they can't read, or they have the very bare minimum to read a stop sign, okay? And that's it. But those Kentuckians who could read up to the 9th grade level, their definition is they can read and write at a minimal level, but they have difficulty in applying what they read and write in other situations. So they can't read something and apply it. You know, they can't read a cookbook and then apply it. They can't read something and comprehend it and then actually say what it is that they had comprehended. So their analysis and comprehension skills are not to be admired. We desire these things. We want to see these things get better. So these low levels of skills are likely to impede their personal advancement and collectively the development of the state's economy. Good education means Kentucky can elevate ourselves. You have Japan, Cuba, England, all these islands, you know, with less people seem to be able to do way better than what Kentucky can do. We can do so much better. We need a renaissance. We need to have a cultural burst, you know, of just different Kentucky. Kentucky kicks ass. I like that type of program. They're talking about how Louisville created the first cheeseburger. Is that true? Is it not true? These are good discussions to have. UK fans would be like, oh, fuck the Cardinals, fuck U of L. Okay, that's fine, fuck U of L, but don't get in the emergency room. Don't get in an ambulance. If you're sick, if you have a car accident, don't use an ambulance. That was founded at U of L, okay? So don't you dare get in an ambulance, and don't you dare go to the emergency room. If you go to the emergency room, if you go to the ambulance, thank the University of Louisville for providing those services, because they were the first school to provide those services. So, you know, they're not just about basketball teams. There's actually a college behind the basketball team. So don't forget about the college. And the college is about us learning and having a coordination problem, so everybody has jobs, good jobs, we're all living well, doing decently, and just the fact that we have pollution and poor people shows capitalism is broken, okay? We have homeless people, so capitalism is not going to solve this. Capitalism wants poor, cheap laborers, and that's good. So good we have homeless people, they'll work for like pennies on the dollar, right? No, that's absolutely horrible. Good that we got pollution and war and destruction, because actually capitalism says those things are good. When something gets blown up, that means you have to have new workers. They have to rebuild the thing, and then that's good, right? So anything that creates more jobs is a good thing. Well, no, there's a human element to it, a social element to it. Blowing things up, hurting people, pollution, dumping. You got LG&E and KU just dumping all the toxins for just years into the rivers. These are not good things. These are not good things. Okay. So other important statistics we learned from this report are 37% of Kentuckians aged 25 and older do not have a high school diploma. So, wow, that's great. And these are the 1990 statistics. So these are the people that's 50, 60, 70 years old. They didn't go to school. They're not literate. And they're, I don't need to know about that damn dirt internet. Oh, fuck you. The internet's a revolution, and if you don't have a smartphone or a Facebook, then you don't really matter, okay? You do matter, and you'll probably try to hold on to your fucking ignorance forever and think that your way is best, but get the fuck out of here. It's a brave new world. It's a postmodern generation, and you're a dying breed, just like the age of the rock star gods. No more rock star gods for teachers, okay? Good leaders create more leaders, not followers, and so far that's all Kentucky education has been able to teach are good followers. I'm going to go for one more page and then we'll call it quits, okay? Because I went through I did this for an hour and they cut it all off. So, other important statistics we learned from this report are 37% of Kentuckians aged 25 and older do not have a high school diploma. So, I already said that 2/3 of Kentucky counties have 40% or more of their working age population at levels 1 and 2 literacy. In 10 counties, 50% or more of the working age population is at levels 1 and 2 literacy. Continued high dropout rates from secondary school continue to feed the problem. Low literacy levels of parents relate directly to the education of the children and the youth. Children of parents with low literacy levels are 5 times more likely to drop out of school. Illiteracy is a pervasive condition affecting every dimension of Kentucky life. Every bit of it. Okay? And the fact that it's not all counties, right? Some counties have way more, proportionally speaking, of illiterate people than the rest of them. So you take a look at this map. I would guess probably, right, there's poor areas in Louisville, there's poor areas in eastern Kentucky. I would guess it's a lot of those counties too. But basically, it's not all Kentucky. So remember, our median income is $40,000. There's a middle class here. What is good with Kentucky can fix what is bad with Kentucky. We just need to give a damn. We need to say, hey, having 25% of our kids in poverty is not a good idea. If we want our state to compete nationally, if you don't want these kids bullying your kids and coming up to schools and, you got 5-year-olds shooting 2-year-olds, you got all this insane behavior that's going on. If you don't want that, this type of shit coming back to you, and don't think that it won't come back to you. 60% of the people in Iroquois High School are not graduating. That means that man is going to fucking rob your ass. He sees you and he's going to rob you. And why do you think you got riots that were happening in Louisville? The riots are happening because there's no education opportunity. There's no jobs over there. They don't have a degree. You kick them out of school. Now what are they supposed to do? They don't have a choice. They got to sell drugs. They got to work on the street. They got to jack, any good lick out there. And they don't give a fuck. They don't care about nobody. So that's Kentucky. You're creating these people, okay? And I think morally, if you have no bread, yeah, take your bread. But if you got bread and you're taking, then you're just being spoiled, and you're being spoiled for no apparent reason. So, approximately 1 million of Kentucky's 2.4 million working age population functions at levels 1 and 2. 40% of Kentucky's working age population ages 16 to 64 functions at 2 lowest levels of literacy. Not being able to read at all or having limited to moderate reading ability, that limits us, okay? Statewide averages mask the reality that large numbers of Kentucky counties have levels of literacy comparable to only those of developing nations. And this is according to the Paul Patton. So, we're like on Haiti standards, right? Africa standards, with third world countries. It's just a matter of time before you start seeing bloated white Kentuckians with flies all over their face. In other words, approximately 1 million of Kentucky's 2.4 million working age population functions at levels 1 and 2. Here's a snapshot of all the rankings. So this is page 18. It's 29-page thing. There's 11 more pages after this. There's 10 pages before this. Check it out. There's a link. I show all the statistics here. There's a good snapshot about the health statistics. There's cancer, health problems, obesity, toothlessness, we can do better, Kentucky, and we should do better. And then I talk about the conclusions at the end. And one of them, somebody suggested, since Kentucky wants to be this sort of, you know, this holier than thou, oh, I don't take no food stamps. Bullshit, Kentucky, you're taking lots of food stamps, okay? Some of you middle class people don't need to take the food stamps, but there's a lot of you Republicans, you fake ass Republicans, who're sitting there taking food stamps and taking all the free medical care and taking the Social Security, and then you're pretending like you ain't getting a damn thing from the government. That's bullshit, okay? We need to be honest about where we are at now, and where we need to be. And we need honesty, and we need to do better. In Kentucky, you know, I think we can do this. I think we can do this. We're going to have a renaissance. We're going to have a cultural rejuvenation. We're going to have, you know, a tourist industry. We're going to see Kentucky thrive for the rest of my life since I'm going to be here. Okay, so come on, Kentucky. I know we can do this. I believe in you. Come on.